let's stay with federal politics and the government's legislative agenda for this week. Andrew Wallace is the Shadow Attorney-General and joins me in the studio this morning. Andrew Wallace, welcome back to Radio National Breakfast.
Thanks, Sally. Good morning, and good morning to your listeners.
The government, now that the government's dumped the racial vilification aspect, will the opposition support the rest of the changes to hate laws?
Well, Sally, the opposition is continuing to go through its processes. We've still got more work to do examining the bill. We said that we wanted to come back to Parliament to go through the details of this bill to make this bill as best as we possibly could. We've got more discussions to make amongst our colleagues, and so we'll do that. We've got a party room meeting still to go, so there's more work to be done yet.
What precisely is the concern that you need to negotiate over? Is it the hate preachers? Is it the level of penalty? What's the detail here?
Well, Sally, I'm not going to go into details with you about what sticking points there may or may not be, but there are certain processes which I'm sure that you would respect that the party has to go through before I can, and it won't be me that'll be standing up and making the announcement. It'll be quite rightly Susan Lee.
The Coalition said from the outset that this was unsalvageable. Now you're in negotiations. Was the Coalition too quick to write off what the government had put forward? Well,
not at all, because the Prime Minister said to Susan and said to Australians that this bill was unsplittable. He refused to negotiate on dealing with us. Now, Susan, as the Leader of the Opposition, approached the Prime Minister before Christmas and implored him to approach this with in a bipartisan manner. But the Prime Minister, in his belligerent usual fashion, knew best and decided that he didn't want any help, didn't want any assistance, that the Labor Party would press on with a bill that was unworkable. Absolutely unworkable, and that's why ultimately he's had to capitulate in the most embarrassing manner and split the bill when he said that it was unsplittable.
We've just heard from Cabinet Minister Murray Watt, who's talking about the importance of unity at this time and surrounding this issue, and he's accused the Coalition of politicisation. Are you politicising this issue?
No, look, I absolutely refute that. I mean, you know when the Labor Party is in trouble when they pull out the unity card. And the Prime Minister's conduct, and quite frankly, the leaders within the Labor Party, has been absolutely appalling. From go to woe, when you look at how the Labor Party and the Prime Minister himself has conducted this whole situation since the appalling attacks on December 14, the Prime Minister expected that this would be a political problem that he could ride out, that people such as yourselves, the media and Australians would just forget about it over Christmas. Well, Australians didn't, quite rightly, because this was the worst terrorist attack on Australian soil, resulting in the death of 15 people. And the Prime Minister totally misread the room on this. I think that there's been a total failure on the part of the Prime Minister, from the failure to call a Royal Commission for 25 days, and then the belligerent way that he's conducted himself in relation to the formulation of this bill, now two bills.
What's happened on the Coalition side here? Because we know that in the days following the attack, Susan Lee was urging the Prime Minister to urgently recall Parliament and so on, and now that didn't happen. Now we're hearing from members of the Coalition that the process is rushed. What's happened here? You were saying go quickly initially, and now it's going too quickly, is it?
Well, that's a really good point to make, Sally, and I'm glad that you raised it because it's important to clarify. Susan Lee called for the Parliament to resume in the same way that Chris Minns resumed Parliament before Christmas, an emergency sitting, so that we could thrash these things out as early as possible. If we had have done that, if we had have come back, as Susan suggested, before Christmas, we could have been well and truly down the track of a proper consideration of this bill, or now two bills. What we saw instead was an absolute shambles in the process. Just let me finish this. Just let me finish though, because the Prime Minister established an absolute shambles and a sham of a PJCIS inquiry. Now, I know that committee intimately. I was the Deputy Chair for 3.5 years. There is no way on God's green earth that that Secretariat could have gone through more than 7,000 submissions of Australians that wrote in and said, this is not a bill that we support. If we had have come together in the bipartisan manner that Susan Lee had been requesting before Christmas, we could have been well down the path. Instead, what we got was a shambles of a bill that the Prime Minister himself has had to cut out one of the major aspects of, being the racial vilification laws, and he remains...
Because you demanded that?
Well, it's not just the coalition that demanded it. It was millions and millions of Australians, stakeholders across the country. More than 7,000 people wrote in submissions to the PJCIS. And what really gets up my goat, Sally, is that the Prime Minister set, as he has done consistently with national security legislation, totally unrealistic timeframes for the PJCIS to operate.
Just finally on a separate issue, the latest news poll published in The Australian today has One Nation ahead of the coalition for the first time in the primary vote. What do you make of that?
Well, Sally, it won't surprise you to know that I'm going to say polls go up, polls go down.
Does it concern you?
Well, I'd be a fool to say that it doesn't concern me. Of course it concerns me.
Why is it happening, do you think?
Well, look, I think Australians are quite rightly upset. They're scared. What people are telling me is they don't feel safe anymore. They can't afford to live. They can't afford to feed their kids.
Why don't they feel safe with you, with the coalition?
Well, Sally, I think it's a pox on both your houses at the moment. But interestingly, Sally, Susan Lee is the preferred Prime Minister amongst women across this country, preferred Prime Minister in Queensland, preferred Prime Minister in Victoria. So early days, Sally. It's only been 7 or 8 months since the last election. I think Susan Lee is doing a terrific job in the most difficult of circumstances. Who'd want her job?
Who does want it? Tell me. Andrew Wallace, thanks for your time this morning.
Thanks, Sally.
Andrew Wallace is the Shadow Attorney-General. You're listening to Radio National Breakfast.
Authorised by Andrew Wallace, LNP, Boccarina, Queensland.